Kulthum in 1935. Now, one of the reasons for her enormous appeal is that she came from a very humble background. She knew poverty firsthand. Virginia Danielson, take us through her early life. What happened?
Well, she was born in a village in the delta of Egypt to a poor family. The father was the imam, or the local official of the mosque, and he made extra money by singing at weddings and saints' days and local occasions. He tried to school. He had a nephew and a son who would accompany him and sing the songs too, and he taught the son the songs. And as a little girl, she just started singing along, and everyone was struck by the power of her voice. So he took her with them, and she became the family star. But she always talked about herself as Bint al-Beled, as a daughter of the countryside, as coming from a poor family. She never affected to wealth, even though eventually she accumulated it.
Well, these are the words she used about that.
My childhood was not different from that of many children of my country.
As we've heard, her father was the imam of the local mosque, and he used to add to his income by singing religious songs for weddings and other celebrations in the surrounding villages.
One day, I heard my parents whispering after the morning prayer. My father said we don't have enough money to keep Kulthum in school. What money we have must go on our son's education. I listened to my mother plead with him to find the extra coin it would take for me to stay in school. How or where my father found that coin, I will never know.
Well, this is a crucial, obvious question, isn't it, Adaf? I mean, was it very unusual at that time for girls to be encouraged to be performers?
To be performers, yes, absolutely. At the time when Kulthum was establishing her career in Cairo, there were other women singers, but it was not a particularly reputable profession. So they'd be very popular and powerful and rich, but they would not be socially accepted in respectable circles. And of course, the amazing thing that Kulthum did, and was the first to do as a woman, was to break that.
So, Virginia, it's not really a case of we don't let girls do that because they're girls and they can't do that. It was more the worry about respectability if she became a public performer.
Very much so. And on her father's part particularly, it would have been viewed, I think, as a complete abrogation of responsibility to actually put your daughter on a stage deliberately. And so he dressed her as a boy. And it wasn't, I think most people realized she was a girl, but it was a step toward modesty and protection of her.
What she dressed as was a Bedouin boy. Now, she was a peasant. They were all peasants. And so to dress as a Bedouin, as an Arab, was to be in costume, to be in fancy dress. It wasn't so much a sort of a gender change as it was saying this is a theatrical role that this person is playing. It was play acting.
I want to backpedal a little bit to her school days, where Kulthum learnt to recite the Quran, and this was later said to be, Adaf Swef, the basis of her perfect pronunciation as a singer. I don't understand the link here.
It's essential when you learn the Quran by heart and when you recite it, that you should pronounce it correctly. And I think that there's actually more to it than that, in that one of the trademarks that characterized her concerts was that she would repeat each stanza maybe 4 or 5 times.
Of the same song?
Of the same song. She'd do the stanza, and then people would go wild and ask her to repeat it, and she would repeat it, and again and again and again. But what she was doing was not actually repetition. She was making improvisations along the way. Of course, this is one of the things that happens with the master reciters of the Quran, that they will recite a verse and then they will go back and recite it again, slightly differently. And as they do this, they kind of build up the emotional intensity of the performance. And this, I think, is what she did with her sort of varied repetitions, and I don't know that anybody else has ever done that.
I want to hear more about her childhood. In her early days, Kulthum and her father were so poor they would walk to their gigs, so to speak, their engagements, but later she said she felt as if they'd walked the entire delta before they set foot in Cairo.
We walked several kilometres from our village to El Sin Bilawin. Then we took a train to El Mansoura. Then we took a boat across the Nile to Takha. Then we took another train to Nabrawa and walked to the village where the wedding was supposed to be held.
Adaf, do you find her early career something that kind of warms your heart and you identify with this not struggling little girl, but she's a pretty tough character, isn't she?
Yes, I find her really admirable in that she seemed really quite early on to sense what she had and to sense the path that she wanted to take and to sort of make things happen for herself.
Later she explained the motivation behind her public performances.